Welcome to the pod. Today we'll be talking about Ummahfy. Ummahfy was founded by Safi and Bilal Yusuf, and these guys are entrepreneurs in their own right. They're relatively young, they just recently graduated, but they've already developed a online platform for Muslims to create their own events. And I think this pod will actually give you a lot of insight into how they're building their business and what we can expect to see from them in the future. Welcome to the
Sure.
Diary of a Muslim Entrepreneur, Safi and Bilal. It's a pleasure to have you. It's an honor to have both two young, aspiring entrepreneurs who are building Ummahfy, alhamdulillah. So I guess let's go ahead and get started and tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you guys are doing. What's your mission? What's your goal with Ummahfy? And what is Ummahfy?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Safi. Uh, Recently graduated from Purdue in 2022. Before that, I was working as a software engineer at Adobe, Intel, as well as product manager there. After I graduated, I decided I just want to leave the whole big tech thing behind and start my own thing. So I tried building a health tech software, which was based on some of the work I was doing on Intel's AI health tech suite. And that didn't end up working out. Very capital intensive business to get into right after college during COVID and everything. So pivoted from there, started working at a startup incubator. Did that for about a year, helped them build out a B2B SaaS product. And then after that, they kind of canned the project actually after literally building for an entire year, the entire business and everything like that. Don't know why they made that decision, but I think alhamdulillah was for the best because from there I decided that I felt like I had gotten enough experience doing the startup thing that I was ready to build something on my own. So I was spent about a couple of months just literally thinking, grinding, learning everything I could about problems I could solve for myself, for the community. And after a couple different ideas, I thought of Ummahfy. It was actually pretty spontaneous. There was a couple of scholars in town in like January that I missed, or I caught one of their events, right? At my local masjid. I caught one of their events and I found out that they had a bunch of other events for the past week, like all over Chicago. And I'd missed all of these amazing events because I just didn't know about them. And I only knew about the one in my community because I went to Jummah and the Imam was like, hey, we have this Imam here, visiting from out of the country. And I was like, wait, they were here this whole time? And I just didn't know. So from there, I was like, there's got to be a better way to find Muslim events than waiting for the Imam after Jummah to tell you. Uh, and some of the organizations that were hosting this Imam, I had never even heard of. There's just so many here, at least in Chicago, right? But I know this is also a problem in other big Muslim metro cities like Dallas, like Houston, like New York. So I decided, I called up Bilal and I was like, hey, bro, I have an idea. I think this is going to work. Let's create a place where Muslims can find any of the events in their local areas and not only find events, but create events as well. Because another thing I'd been dealing with, right, as a recent graduate was being able to find that Muslim community. In college, it's very easy. There's tons of people everywhere. You never feel the lack of friends. But then you graduate college and you're like plunged into this world and it's like, wait, how do I make friends now? I'm just trapped. Especially Muslims. I feel like in Chicago here, it's a bit cliquey. So I was like, how do I find these people? And I figured, along with being able to find these masjid events, let's also facilitate the creation of, safe Muslim third spaces outside of the masjid where people can host casual events at coffee shops or go play basketball or pickleball or whatever people are playing these days and just find a place to, connect these Muslims with whatever interest that they have. So that was the idea. Called up Bilal, our other co-founder as well. He's sort of on the backside, does our UX design and our front end engineering. And yeah, the rest is history.
Mashallah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, tell me a little bit more about the ideation phase. How did that come about? Because you said you went to an event where Ummahfy was born from that idea, but just walk me through the steps of like the mental steps of like how did it actually start?
In terms of like after I had the
So
idea, like how we
I
get
guess
off the
yeah, like
ground.
so like you had the idea. Like, did you just call up Bilal and say, "Hey, I have this idea. Can do it? You want to do this with me, right?" Or was there like a
Mhm.
like walk me through that idea or like that initial phase?
Right. So before this, Bilal and I were working on another idea very briefly. I'd say we spent a month doing a couple of validation sprints for different business models. So we were already very primed with the idea of building something together, right? So honestly, at this point, like I was so ready to start building, and I had talked to a lot of my mentors, and they're like, Safi, you have a lot of good ideas. We'd been through a couple of validation sprints. They're like, you just need to start building something and see how the market reacts. So I kid you not, Bilal, you remember this? I think I called you and I said, we're starting this today, right? We're
Yeah.
building this today. That's what I
Yeah.
said. So really, like I called him up. He came over, and we started like laying writing out documents. And I think within a week from ideation, like there was code being written, maybe less than a week. So we decided to work fast. I think in startups you have to work as fast as possible. So yeah, it was really like we were ready. Like the way I always like to be is when I see an opportunity, I want to jump at it with full force, with full velocity. So I had the idea. I knew this one was right. So we
So
went to it.
just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, yeah, go for it.
I think the traditional business life cycle of going through a validation phase and all these steps before building is there for a reason. But I think the most important thing you can do is just start building. And for us, that proved to be successful and a lot more fun, I think, than getting ourselves weighed down by going through business models and all these thoughts before actually putting in any pen to paper.
Got it.
Yeah, because I think one issue with business is a lot of times you tell a ton of people about an idea, and then you're almost bogged down with reality, right? You'll tell people about an idea, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a Desi thing, or maybe it's a Muslim thing, but everyone immediately tries to shut you down and tell you why your business isn't going to work. And these are not entrepreneurs, right? If I'm coming to you or coming to another entrepreneur, and they're giving me constructive feedback, it's fine. But I feel like when you tell people, maybe in the community or friends and family, they'll be like, "Oh, but what about this? But what about that?" It's like, have you built a startup? So
I mean, in some
I've
cases,
heard that it's best to. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
in some cases, their concerns may be valid, right? You want them to rip apart the
Right.
idea. I would still listen to that criticism because, like, maybe there is some value to be found in it. But sometimes you can find, like, oh, maybe there is some truth to what they're saying, right? But I completely agree with you. Normally, I would never listen to, like, even my dad in some cases. Like, hey, Dad, you've never run a business, you've never
Yeah.
done anything. But what do you think of it? Anyways, right? Because I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
that feedback, you can see it from a consumer perspective, right? Oh, how would a
Right.
consumer perceive that? But you're absolutely right on that point. Go ahead. I think you had something else to add to this.
I was saying I always take feedback, and once we were into it, like we came to people and we're like, "Yo, rip apart everything," right? But I think getting the momentum before you expose your idea out to the public, where you're like, you still have this like internal belief this is gonna work out. Now tell me all the things I should consider to make sure I'm not, making the wrong decisions while we're doing it. But I think like it found a problem, right? We talked to a like core few number of people, Muslims in the community, and they said, yes, this is a problem. We think this is wonderful. And we just decided to attack it full force. And from there, then we took tons and tons of critique and ideas and criticism. But I just think doing that too early on can kill your momentum, where it's like now you're thinking about all these different considerations before you've even started doing anything, right? I think it's just there's a time to get feedback, right? Feedback after building, not before you've even thought about anything.
Got it. So here's a question for you. When you were, I guess sometimes some entrepreneurs say, "Is there an actual problem here that you're solving?" So the problem that Ummahfy is technically solving is getting the Ummah to know more about events, right? So just walk me through the process of, like, how did you confirm that that was an issue or a problem for your community?
Right. So, of course, the first thing was to just go to the other Muslims in the community, and, especially young folk is who we're targeting, and ask them like what they feel about this sort of situation. Like, do they feel connected to the masjid? Do they want to? And I think there's a overwhelming amount of people who are a bit lost and directionless, right? Like it's very difficult, especially, young people trying to connect to the masjid. There's almost this fear. It's like, am I going to get judged? Maybe, everyone's a sinner, right? I'm sure you've
Yeah,
heard,
yeah. I've heard
I don't know
these.
if it's a hadith, like if you could smell the sins on everyone else, nobody would even get close to each other, right?
Yeah.
So, people they're sometimes scared to go to the masjid, to be in these Muslim circles. So, we got a lot of initial early positive feedback saying, hey, like being able to see other young Muslims going to events and facilitating that, because this is, I don't want to say it's just a platform for young people, but we know that that's our target is primarily young people. Being able to see that, it has a bit of this network effect where, okay, now I know other young Muslims are coming to the masjid, almost making it cool to interact with them within the Muslim community, where honestly, sometimes people have found it's like kind of uncool to be religious these days, right? So trying to sort of shift that narrative.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. So, just out of curiosity, I mean, how long has it been since you started Ummahfy to today? Has it been 6 months, 8 months, a year?
I think it's been almost 6 months. I think I'd say
I
around
think
five
that is,
months.
yeah.
Yeah.
So some people might be listening to this and they might be saying, okay, where did you guys utilize any capital, or have you just been using your own time to develop the code? Where did you get the expertise and skills to build this stuff? And did you utilize any capital while you were building it?
hmm
How do you sustain yourself
Yeah.
while you're in this phase of building?
Right. So for me, I'll speak on myself and then I'll let Bilal go. For me personally, I always knew that I was going to build something, right? Like I mentioned. So while I was working every job previous, whether it was at Adobe or Intel or the startup incubator, I am a very, I don't want to say religious saver. It might not be the right word in this context, right? But I'm very good about my saving, and I would save over, like, I'd say half of every single paycheck. And I just be putting it, not even like people would be like, Safi, what are you doing? I put some in crypto actually, but I would stockpile a lot of cash. And people were saying like, Safi, why are you saving cash? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I know I'm going to deploy this cash like via business. Like I don't want to put it into stocks and then like take it out and have like long term. And, people will probably look at me right now and be like, there's probably better things I could have done with the money. And like, yeah, I know I'm not a financial advisor, nor do I have one. Maybe I need one. But I was just stockpiling a lot of cash for a long time because I knew I wanted to deploy it as soon as possible when the opportunity arose. And this was that opportunity. So alhamdulillah, I was able to create a bit of our own personal pre-seed, so to speak, which has been more than enough to sustain
So
any
it's
of
been
the
self-funded,
business
basically.
expenses that we've had. Or,
So,
alhamdulillah.
oh,
But yeah, Bilal, if you want to chat about that
Yeah,
as
and
well.
I think a big part of that has been the fact that all three of us on our founding team are technical. At this stage, it's a huge asset because I graduated from college 6 months ago. I studied computer science. Safi and Sami also did, and so being able to build our whole product ourselves from the ground up, all the coding, all the design, all the product development, completely in house has been a huge asset. Uh, I also work full time as a software engineer, so that's been helping me sustain myself. Safi graduated a year before me, so I haven't had the chance to build up the Ummahfy pre-seed fund like he has. But I think alhamdulillah, the team is the most important part of a product, and our team has been a super huge resource in making us succeed so far.
one of my goals for this pod is to grow to at least 100,000 subscribers at some point, hopefully by the end of the end of this Islamic year. And I hope that you guys can help me achieve that goal by liking, sharing, commenting, engaging with me and the team behind Diary of a Muslim Entrepreneur. Now, currently, I can see that 90% of you guys are not actually subscribed, and I'd love to see your subscription. This not only helps me in a couple different ways, it helps me get better guests because of the subscriber count, and it also helps me get better quality equipment. I look forward to seeing all of you on the flip side. So, how big is the team? Is it just the three of you guys right now?
Yeah.
Got it. So, do you have plans for expansion, growth? Like, what does that look like for you guys in the next 6 months to a year time frame?
I would inshallah love to expand the team. I'll say I couldn't be more blessed with the team that we have. The three of us, we've known each other for a very long time. Actually, I've known Bilal since elementary school. We went to Islamic school together, and Sami also I knew since middle school. And we have such a well-rounded and balanced skill set where even though all three of us are CS majors, so you'd think we're all just like CTOs, three CTOs in a room. It's really not like that. I transitioned from software to product. I love the business side, the product side, marketing, like very non-standard CS major, you'd say, but then I can still, hop into the code when Bilal needs me to debug stuff. Bilal, I'd say, is, our CTO standard. Well, not standard. Mashallah, he's a very, very impressive engineer. Built our entire backend, but he's the technical guy. And then Sami, despite also being a CS major, he does all of our design and our front end development. So honestly, he might be the powerhouse of the team. So it's super well rounded. So I'd say the biggest thing is as we continue to grow and expand, we'd love to have maybe some more engineering firepower just to build out as we want to scale nationwide and globally. And then on top of that, probably people for like operations, growth, and sales, more so probably the latter two, just to help us expand into new markets with a lot of virality because social media is a big part of our plan right now.
So here's a question: how do you make money? How does Ummahfy make money?
Yeah, so right now we're really just focused on like product growth. There's a lot of similar like startups out there in the event space. Like I'd say Partiful might be one that most people are familiar with, and they have absolutely zero monetization whatsoever right now. And they're just focused on getting as many users as possible, and they're doing very, very well at that. And I think they're valued pretty decently as well. So for us, we have thought about monetization in a lot of the similar ways that incumbent startups like Eventbrite, Event Noir. So affiliates, commissions off paid events, marketing,
Or processing
these sort
fees,
of
right? Processing fees through like tickets or ticketing
yeah,
or things like that, right? Okay.
ticket processing fees, those sort of things. Obviously, the standard. But obviously, those mostly come into play once you have more scale, right? If there's 10 transactions a month, then
Yeah.
that's not much revenue, right? So we're actively exploring quite a few different business models to try and monetize, even while we have a small following. Sort of maybe in like a B2B aspect, working with masjids to help them get more people into their events and that sort of thing. But nothing that we're really ready to share publicly.
Got it. Cool. Cool. So I guess one of the questions I have here is, Ummahfy right now hasn't been launched. It's going to be launching this Friday, right? From what we
Inshallah.
see, yeah, mashallah. So do you have like any sort of preliminary users as of right now? And what do you expect? Maybe you're going to end within the year. Maybe 1,000 users, 500, maybe million. Like where's your head? Basically.
Yeah, so we have a small like beta group. Through our email list, we've accrued, I'd say, close to 100 people who are like our core audience, and a lot of friends and family as well. So we've been doing a lot of testing right now on the back end, but I think things aren't really ready. As of today, but by the end of the week, they will be ready. We're still working out those last minute bugs. But yeah, we're going to be launching to like the sort of small group that we've been created. And from there, inshallah, I think end of year, I would love, like the number I'm really, really looking to crack is that 10,000 user mark. I feel like that's a really large milestone. Is it a little ambitious? I think it might be, but I only set ambitious goals for myself. So I think it is in the realm of possibility, considering over, I think, 100,000 Muslims in the Chicagoland area.
Of course.
So inshallah, I'm really looking to
Based
get
on my
that
math,
number.
I think they're actually more than that. 'Cause
Yeah.
like Atlanta, like where I am at right now, Atlanta is probably at 120,000. Raleigh's about 130, 140,000. Virginia
I think
area.
it might be three. I think it might be 300,000 in
Yeah.
Chicago at least. But yeah,
So like, I mean, Houston's even bigger. Houston, California, Washington D.C., and New York, New Jersey. Chicago, the Chicagoland is also huge, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody's spread out on the north side, or like all the way from like I think it's like Lombard and where is it? Like where the most where's the population of the Muslims, at least in Chicago? Like where would the concentration be? Wouldn't that be like on that famous street? I forget the name of it off the top of my head.
So there's Devon Avenue
Yeah.
in Chicago, which is in the city. That's like the very Desi street. Then here, close to Bilal and I, is Lombard, which is pretty close to Devon, but it's in the suburbs.
Okay.
A lot of families. I actually grew up there myself. And then there's also Bridgeview, which they call Little Palestine, and that has a ton of Arab population there. So it's pretty scattered, right? It goes all the way from south, like Lombard is a little bit more south. I wouldn't call it like due south, but then all the way up to like Skokie and that sort of area, which is like even north of Chicago. Still, like you said, a ton of Muslims there. So yeah, it's very distributed, and I think that's part of Ummahfy is to make that feel a little bit closer together.
So how do you go to like all the mosques? Do you just reach out to them and say, "Hey, Imam, my name is Safi, and I'm putting up this new platform, and we'd love to have the masjid on this platform"? Is that typically how the conversations are going, or just walk me through that, please?
Yeah, so for the initial few masjids, I think it's nice that obviously we're very involved in the community. So the masjid that we have on board is a masjid that we've been going to a long time. The local masjids that I go to, I can easily reach out to the imams. Imams are actually astonishingly good at recognizing faces within their community. It's a true superpower that imams have, from Allah. That even I go to the masjid twice, and an imam will the second day he'll be like, "Oh, assalamu alaikum, I saw you yesterday." It's like, wow, right? So mashallah, they're very good at that. So when they recognize people when you approach them, and I think I like to get those warm outreaches, especially because I'd say anyone who goes to a masjid, right, they know their imam and they can make a warmer introduction to me if I went to like Skokie Masjid and just called them up or walked in the front door and said, "Hey, like I've never done namaz at this masjid in my life, but I want to work with you guys," versus walking in with my cousin's dad who lives in Skokie and being like, "Hey, like, this is my, whatever. Even if it's not my cousin, but it's my friend's cousin's dad, right? That's good enough. Any connection is better than no connection." So that's sort of the strategy that we're going about to get to these masjids.
Mashallah, it's a good idea. Or have you thought about maybe also leveraging maybe nonprofits as well? Because like maybe that, I mean, the masjid is already nonprofit, but like maybe that's another way to expand your scope outside of just being in masjids, because masjids is a limited quantity, right? There's like maybe, I don't
Right.
know, in the Chicagoland area, maybe like 200 or so, I don't know. But like in Atlanta, for example, there's like 100. There's only so many you can go to before you hit like a theoretical maximum. It's especially if you want to grow really fast. It's maybe okay. How do I target not just that, but maybe I expand into another sector? Maybe I go to churches. Maybe I go to whatever, right? So it's just an idea out there to throw out there. But
Yeah.
I want to know your thoughts on this. Like, what are you guys thinking?
Yeah, we've definitely explored that. Bilal and I talked about, becoming a greater suite for all nonprofits to help them with their events, and that's something that we'll, I think, definitely explore in the future. We recently found out, or during our competitive analysis, to found like some similar companies in the church and synagogue space that seem to be doing well as well. So, maybe we'll go into there. Maybe we'll use that and talk to those people and try and learn more about how they built successful businesses in their space. But I could definitely see it, especially expanding into Muslim nonprofit organizations, right? My family were very involved with like Pakistan schools and stuff like that, or Mohsin around here, which is for disabled Muslim families or families with disabled children. So looking into these Muslim nonprofits, I think is also like something we're very focused on.
Mashallah, that's a really amazing vision of the company. So, where do you see Ummahfy going in the next like 2 to 3 years? Do you think it would be in every single mosque in the United States, or is it still going to be like Chicago centric, or like what are your ideas? I know that you said you're ambitious, so I'm guessing it's all over the world.
Inshallah, yes, you,
But
you got me exactly. No, I think within 2 to 3 years, we can definitely try to have that global expansion locked in by then. Even for the masjids that don't, we can't access directly and be like, "Hey, input your events on our platform." I think it's very easy for other people to facilitate that for happening, right? Like whether that's us internally having a team reaching out to these masjids or inputting events from all over the internet, just making sure that I think it's less like having the masjid connections is important, but I think it's just as important to just have all the events on our platform, whether or not we have that insider at the masjid that's facilitating that.
yeah, I mean, you could probably start scraping every single mosque, like their WhatsApp groups. I don't know if you can actually scrape WhatsApp, but
Exactly. Yeah.
like scraping all that data from there, and then maybe scraping anything on that's on Facebook, maybe scraping anything that's on Eventbrite. compiling them and aggregating them in one singular spot done for you, right? And then, hey, just
Right.
reach out to us. We'll go ahead and set it up, or just leave us a WhatsApp note or whatever it is. We'll do it on your behalf, right? Maybe that offer that as a service. Hey, and then bill them at the end of the month. Hey, like you did this like 10 times. We'll charge you $100, $200, whatever it is, right? Event management, event planning, that kind of stuff. So it's interesting for sure. It's an interesting idea and concept. What an amazing pod with Safi and Bilal. And unfortunately, we couldn't have their third co founder on, but nevertheless, they've already launched their product. They're ready to go. They're already live in the Chicagoland area. And please go support them. Their socials are down below. And if you ever want to, reach out to them, please do so. Please show them some love. Please show them some support. And show us some support. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Anything and everything helps us. We'd really appreciate it. More subscribers equals more guests, better quality equipment, and we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.